Hello and welcome. It's Chris, your friendly neighborhood acupuncturist, sharing a different view on health and healing based on natural principles from a variety of therapeutic practices that I focus on, including acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine, traditional dietary practices, Tai Chi, Qigong. It's something I like to call nature's healing. And today I wanted to focus on the nervous system and how it affects our digestive system. Now, I like to hop on digestion as a very important function in the body because it's very fundamental to our health. When we digest food, we get those building blocks, those nutrients that we need to rejuvenate our body and restore body function. And if we have a poor diet, and even more, if our digestion is poor, then we're just not going to get the nutrients we need. Even if you're eating healthy, if your digestion is not in good standing, in good working order, you're not going to extract the nutrients that you need. And there's some basic signs of poor digestion. The big one that I often see is bloating, and that is a thing where you feel full, and oftentimes people ignore it and just deal with it like it's just how things are for them, and it doesn't have to be. That's a sure sign of things not digesting properly. But let's talk about this from a traditional Chinese medicine point of view. We talk about digestion as having a downward function. And if you think about it from one end to the other, from the entrance to the exit, if you will, and you're in a sitting position, it is a downward type of flow. Okay, you eat food, you swallow it, it goes through a tube into a bag we call the stomach, all through the intestines and out, right? And there's a downward flow to it. And when there is signs and symptoms in the digestive system, oftentimes it's a reverse flow. And we have a term, a diagnostic term called, rebellious chi. So if somebody's having heartburn or nausea, we might diagnose that as rebellious stomach chi. And chi is often translated as energy, but it can also be translated as function. The digestive system's not functioning well. It's going in reverse. Instead of downward, there's some kind of upward feeling going on there. Okay, and our nervous system has it's good to understand the nervous system and its role in digestion. Oftentimes people are very busy. You got the working lunch, you're skipping lunch, you're just kind of eating on the go, that sort of thing. And what's happening here is you're creating confusion and chaos within the body and its functioning. Because digestion is one where you need to relax to receive. Okay, you need to relax to allow things to come in, settle, digest properly, and be received and absorbed into the body. And when we're busy on an energetic level, when we're busy, we're putting out energy, right? Energy is being kind of like emitted into our muscles, into our surroundings, the activities that we're doing, and it's kind of opposite of that receiving idea. This is yin-yang, Tai Chi type talk, if you will. But now I want to put it in terms of modern anatomical understanding of the body. Okay, and our nervous system is divided up. The autonomic nervous system has two parts to it. There's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Couple of technical words, but let's simplify that. So the sympathetic nervous system is one that deals with stress. They call it the fight or flight response. Okay, running from a tiger. If a tiger's chasing you, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in, your muscles get strong, the adrenaline flows through your body, and you go running or you go fighting and you're trying to survive. Okay, that's the sympathetic. So think of sympathetic related to stress. Then there's the parasympathetic. The parasympathetic is more related to things like relaxing. It deals with digestion. It deals with reproduction. When we're resting, we're more in a parasympathetic type state versus a sympathetic state. So again, let's just use simple terms. It's like two states. One deals with stress, the other one deals with relaxing. When we're eating, we need to relax for that functioning to work properly. The digestive system is innervated, or it has nerves all through our digestive system, right? That's why if you get hit in the stomach, it hurts, right? Lots of nerves down there. I'm pointing down to my belly here. I can't see it in the video, but there's lots of nerves down here. And those nerves are part of the parasympathetic, the relaxing aspect of our nervous system. If we're not in a good, relaxed type state, if we're busy-minded, if we're anxious, if we're running around, if we've got a lot of unsettled thinking going on, problem solving going on, this is using the sympathetic nervous system. This is not a relaxing type state. And it's important to be aware. You know, in my online learning platform called learn.natureshealing.info, I've got a master class there. It's called Master Your Health Naturally with 12 Principles. I talk about this sort of stuff. I talk about how it's important to be aware of what your body needs and what affects your body. And then through that awareness, you can make good choices in prevention, practices in self-care for yourself. So this is something that, you know, knowing that stress and busyness diminishes digestive function should lead you to understand that digestion is so important and absorbing those nutrients is so important. And when you're diminishing that, you're diminishing your health. Okay? And if you have digestive problems, instead of reaching for, you know, there's prescription medications out there. You know, it's kind of strong stuff. It actually, you know, you've got heartburn, for example, and then you take a acid stopping type medication. Well, all you're doing is diminishing your digestion even more. You need acid to digest. Why are you having problems with acid? Well, one idea is that stress is dysregulating your digestive system. You know, your stomach has kind of a door on top and a door on the bottom that opens and closes, letting food in and out. And again, this system is stimulated by the parasympathetic nervous system, and if you're stressed out, that system's going to be all whacked out and crazy and chaotic. It's not going to be working the way it's supposed to work. And then you reach for medication to force all these things upon your digestive system. It's better to understand that stress could very well be impacting your digestive system, and you need to try to promote more of an evenness and develop routines that are very consistent, eating at the same time, going to bed at the same time, working at the same time. You know, sometimes we have lives that can be very irregular, especially if you have children, you know, or in a regular job, for example, the hours are irregular. But it's healthy to try to promote regularity as much as you can. And that's a beginning to natural principles and natural practices for you and your health. That's a beginning. Being aware of that, so important. Okay, so if you're feeling bloated, if you're feeling gassy, if you're feeling like you've got heartburn, if you've got irregular bowel movements, and you've got other strong digestive issues, Crohn's disease, IBS, IBD, think about trying to regulate your lifestyle in a way that is very even and consistent. And sometimes it takes a bit to unravel this stuff. And sometimes it takes a bit to focus on what your mind is doing. You know, if your mind is very unsettled through the day with worry, you know, I wrote a book called Seven Emotions. You know, it's the secret gateway to mental emotional wellness. And I'll have a link down below on some of my programs, including a reference to that book. But I talk about how emotions are like energy patterns and how they can unravel our health. And different emotions affect different organs. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the emotion of worry or ruminating, where the mind is just kind of going and not stopping, there's no settling effect, there's no resolving, just constant spinning, you know, a lot of mental chatter. This has an effect on the digestive system. So if this is you and you have digestive issues and maybe you're on medications, obviously always talk to your doctor if you're looking to get off medications and such, and perhaps talk to a health professional like myself if you're looking for a more natural approach to these things. But you may want to consider mental activity and how you approach life and what's going on there, and try to look for solutions to even things out. And I work with my patients in regards to these self-care type practices. It's not always just, you know, throw some herbal formula at it. Sometimes we can get to the root of the problem just by unraveling some bad habits we have from a mental emotional point of view and how we organize our day. So think about those things. If you got questions, I welcome them. Add them to the comment section. You can like and share and spread the good word about this, you know, these natural principles in healing. I hope you get a lot out of this video. Check out my other videos. And until next time, keep on the sunny side.